In a quaint village nestled deep in the forest, there was a small, dusty antique shop that few dared to enter. The shop was run by an old woman named Agnes, who had lived alone for as long as anyone could remember, selling trinkets and treasures that seemed to hold more than just memories. Among the shelves filled with mysterious artifacts, there was a doll that caught the eye of everyone who entered the shop. The doll was unlike any other, with porcelain skin that glowed faintly in the dim light, and eyes so lifelike they seemed to follow you wherever you went. The doll wore a delicate lace dress, intricately embroidered with tiny flowers, and a bonnet that framed her face in a way that made her appear almost angelic. But despite her beauty, the doll was always avoided by the villagers, who whispered that she was haunted by a spirit that had a mind of its own. One day, a young woman named Clara moved to the village, drawn by the serene beauty of the surrounding woods. She was a writer, always searching for inspiration, and when she stumbled upon Agnes's shop, she felt a strange compulsion to enter. As soon as Clara saw the doll, she was captivated, feeling an inexplicable connection to the delicate figure on the shelf. Ignoring the warnings of the villagers, she decided to purchase the doll, believing it would be the perfect muse for her next story. Clara brought the doll home and placed it on a shelf in her study, where she spent hours each day writing. At first, everything seemed normal, but soon, odd things began to happen. Papers would scatter across the room, lights would flicker, and sometimes Clara could swear she heard soft giggles echoing through the house. Despite the strange occurrences, Clara found herself more productive than ever, her writing flowing effortlessly as if the doll were guiding her hand. The funny part came when Clara, frustrated by a stubborn plot point, threw her pen across the room, only for it to land perfectly in the doll's outstretched hand as if offering her a solution. As the days passed, the doll seemed to take on a life of its own, moving from place to place whenever Clara wasn't looking. At first, she thought she was imagining things, but when she found the doll sitting at her typewriter one morning, with the words "Write me" typed across the page, she knew something more was at play. Clara, rather than being frightened, found the situation amusing and intriguing. She decided to play along, treating the doll as a collaborator rather than a curse, and began writing a story about a haunted doll that had a mischievous streak but a heart of gold. The doll's antics became more playful over time, with small pranks that made Clara laugh out loud, like rearranging her books into the shape of a smiley face, or tying her shoelaces together when she wasn't paying attention. It was clear that the doll, while haunted, wasn't malevolent. Instead, it seemed to crave attention and enjoyed being part of Clara's life. One evening, as Clara sat by the fire with the doll in her lap, she wondered aloud about the spirit that inhabited it. To her surprise, the doll's eyes seemed to sparkle in response, and suddenly, the room grew warmer, as if filled with a presence that was both comforting and familiar. The funny moment came when Clara, in a moment of curiosity, asked the doll if it liked her cooking. The next morning, she found a recipe book open to a page titled "The Best Chocolate Cake Ever," with a note that read, "You can do better than this." Clara, ever the optimist, decided to bake the cake as a way of thanking the doll for its companionship. As the smell of chocolate filled the house, she felt a sense of joy that she hadn't felt in years, as if the doll had brought a new kind of happiness into her life. When the cake was done, Clara cut a slice and left it in front of the doll, half-jokingly expecting it to disappear. To her amazement, when she returned to the room later, the plate was empty, and the doll's smile seemed just a little bit wider. The interesting moment came when Clara discovered an old letter tucked inside the doll's dress, written in a delicate script. The letter told the story of a young girl who had once owned the doll and how her spirit had chosen to stay with it, bringing joy and laughter to those who cared for her most beloved possession. Clara realized that the doll was not just haunted but blessed with the spirit of a girl who had loved life and wanted to continue sharing that love, rather than being a source of fear. The doll was a reminder of the importance of joy, creativity, and connection. From that day on, Clara and the doll were inseparable, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. The doll became a fixture in Clara's home, a silent but ever-present companion that filled her life with wonder and delight. Years later, when Clara had become a successful author, she wrote a book about her experiences with the doll, a story that touched the hearts of readers around the world. The book was filled with humor, warmth, and a touch of magic, much like the doll that had inspired it. As Clara grew older, she knew that the time would come when she would have to pass the doll on to someone else. But she also knew that the doll's spirit would continue to bring happiness and creativity to whoever was fortunate enough to care for it. In the end, Clara left the doll to a young girl who had just moved to the village, much like she had years before. The girl, enchanted by the doll's beauty, felt an instant connection, just as Clara had, and from that moment on, the doll's adventures began anew. And so, the story of the haunted doll continued, filled with funny moments, interesting twists, and an unending supply of joy, proving that even in the most unexpected places, beauty and magic can be found.